The envelope arrived on a quiet afternoon, resting on the edge of my table like it had been waiting for the right moment to ruin my peace. Cream-colored gold, trimmed, elegant, familiar. I didn't even need to open it to know what it was. Still, my fingers hovered over it for a long time, as if touching it might pull me back into a life I had worked so hard to escape. My name was written in my mother's handwriting, perfect, precise, controlled. Just like her, a strange tightness formed in my chest. I slowly slid my finger under the seal and opened it. "You are cordially invited, my younger sister's wedding." Of course, a soft, bitter laugh escaped my lips. It made sense. My sister had always been the one who did everything right. The perfect daughter with the perfect smile, the perfect career, and now the perfect marriage. And me, I leaned back in my chair, staring at the invitation as memories began creeping in like unwelcome guests. I had been the difficult one, the one who didn't follow the rules, the one who left home too early, married too young, and loved too deeply. And when it all fell apart, when my marriage crumbled and I was left alone with a child, my family didn't comfort me. They judged me. I could still hear my mother's voice, sharp and cold. Some things lose their value once they're damaged. I didn't understand what she meant back then. Not fully, until the day I overheard her talking to one of her friends in the kitchen. "She's like a scratched label," she had said casually. "No matter what you do, people only see the flaw." Those words had stayed with me ever since, carving a quiet ache deep inside my heart. I looked down at the invitation again, my grip tightening slightly. Why would she even want me there? Was I just another comparison, another reminder of what not to be? I was about to toss the card aside when I heard footsteps. "Mom," I looked up to see my son standing in the doorway, his eyes bright with curiosity. "What's that?" he asked, walking over. I hesitated, then handed it to him. "It's your aunt's wedding." His face lit up instantly. "Really? A wedding? Can we go?" I watched him carefully, taking in his excitement, the kind I hadn't felt in years. "You'd want to go?" I asked softly. "Of course," he said with a grin. "I've never been to one before." I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about me anymore. Maybe it never was. I took a deep breath, folding the invitation slowly. "Okay," I said finally, "we'll go." He smiled, and just like that, the room felt a little lighter, but deep down, I knew something he didn't. This wasn't just a celebration. It was a return to a place where I had once been made to feel like I didn't belong. And I had no idea what was waiting for me there. The wedding venue looked like something out of a dream. Soft golden lights shimmered from crystal chandeliers, casting a warm glow over rows of neatly arranged tables. White roses and fresh lilies filled the air with a delicate fragrance, and the gentle hum of laughter blended perfectly with the music drifting through the hall. Everything was flawless, exactly the kind of perfection my mother always admired. I paused at the entrance for a moment, adjusting the edge of my dress as my son stood beside me, his small hand wrapped tightly around mine. "Wow," he whispered, his eyes wide. "It's beautiful." I forced a small smile. "Yeah, it is." But beneath the beauty, I felt something else. A quiet tension. As soon as we stepped inside, I noticed it. The subtle glances, the hushed whispers, the way a few conversations seemed to pause just as we passed by. It wasn't loud or obvious, but it didn't need to be. I had grown up around this kind of silence. "Mom," my son murmured, leaning closer, "why are people looking at us like that?" "They're just curious," I replied gently, even though I knew that wasn't true. Curiosity didn't feel this sharp. Then I saw her. My mother stood near the stage, surrounded by guests, her posture straight and confident. She wore an elegant sari that shimmered under the lights, her smile poised and graceful, the kind she reserved for the outside world. For a brief second, hope flickered inside me. Maybe she'd be different today. Maybe time had softened her. I took a step forward. Her eyes landed on me almost instantly. That hope vanished just as quickly. She looked me up and down, her gaze slow and measured, as if assessing something that didn't quite meet expectations. "Oh," she said flatly, "you came. No warmth, no surprise, just a statement, of course," I answered quietly. Her eyes shifted toward my son, and this is my son." She gave a polite, almost rehearsed smile, then turned slightly toward the woman standing beside her. She didn't bother lowering her voice enough. "Life rarely turns out the way we plan," she said lightly. "Some things end up less than perfect." The woman beside her gave an awkward chuckle. I felt my stomach tighten. There it was again, that familiar sting wrapped in polite words. My son's hand squeezed mine. "Mom," he whispered softly. "I'm okay," I said quickly, though my voice betrayed me just a little. But I wasn't okay, because no matter how many years passed, no matter how far I went, nothing had changed. Not her words, not her vezege elyade, not the way she made me feel like I was something flawed, something less. I swallowed the lump in my throat and forced myself to stand still, to breathe, to endure, because leaving now would mean she was right. And for once in my life, I didn't want to run, even if every smile in that room felt like a knife. The ceremony moved forward as if nothing was wrong. Music swelled gently through the hall, glasses clinked, and laughter rose in soft waves. My sister looked radiant on the stage, glowing in a way that made everything around her seem dim. Guests smiled, took pictures, and admired every carefully planned detail. From the outside, it was perfect. Inside, I felt like I was slowly unraveling. I sat at the edge of the room, my son beside me, quietly observing everything. I tried to focus on him, on the way his eyes followed the lights and decorations with wonder, but my thoughts kept drifting back to my mother's words. Less than perfect, it was always the same. No matter how much time passed, I was still the example of what went wrong. "Are you okay?" my son asked gently, tugging at my sleeve. I nodded quickly. "Yeah, just tired." He didn't look convinced, but he didn't press further. Instead, he rested his hand over mine, a small gesture that somehow held more comfort than anything else in that room. Then came the speeches. One by one, family members stepped forward, sharing warm memories and heartfelt wishes. People laughed, clapped, and wiped away emotional tears. It was everything a wedding speech was supposed to be, light, loving, and full of pride. I tried to disappear into the background, tried to make myself smaller, invisible. Then my mother's name was announced. A hush fell over the room as she stepped forward, graceful and composed. She adjusted the microphone slightly, her smile polished, her voice calm and steady. She spoke beautifully, about family, about dreams, about how proud she was of her younger daughter, how she had always been focused, disciplined, and wise in her choices. The guests nodded in approval, some even glancing toward my sister with admiration. I kept my eyes lowered. I knew what was coming, and then it did. She gave a soft, almost amused laugh, of course. She continued, "Life doesn't always go as planned for everyone." A few guests chuckled politely. My chest tightened. "We learn through experience," she added, her tone light but pointed. "Some paths teach us what perfection looks like, and others remind us that not everything turns out the way we hoped." There it was. Not my name, but me. I could feel it in the way a few heads turned subtly in my direction, in the way the air seemed to shift around me. My throat burned, my vision blurred. I stared down at my hands, willing myself not to cry, not here, not in front of everyone. I had endured worse. I could endure this too, but something inside me cracked. I slowly pushed my chair back, the sound barely noticeable under the soft hum of the room. I just needed air. Space, distance. I couldn't sit there another second. As I stood, my hand slipped from my son's. I took a step forward, and then I heard it. The sharp scrape of a chair behind me, louder than anything else in the room. I turned, instinctively, and my heart stopped because my son was standing. For a second, everything felt frozen. The soft music faded into the background. Conversations died mid-sentence, and all eyes slowly shifted toward the one sound that had broken the perfect rhythm of the evening. My son standing, my heart began to race. "Sit down." I whispered quickly, my voice barely steady, "It's okay, we're leaving." But he didn't move. Instead, he stepped away from the chair, one step, then another. Each footstep echoed louder than it should have, as if the entire room was holding its breath. "Excuse me," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried, clear, steady, unshaken. Even my mother stopped speaking. Every face turned toward him, some confused, some curious, some already judging. I felt panic rise in my chest. He was just a child. He didn't understand how cruel people could be, how words could twist and turn in rooms like this. But he kept walking until he stood in the open space near the center. Then he looked straight ahead. "I want to say something." A murmur spread through the guests, but it quickly faded again. Silence took over. "I don't think my mom is less than perfect." The words landed like a sudden crack through glass. My breath caught. He continued, his voice soft but unwavering. I heard what was said, and I don't think it's true. No one interrupted him. No one dared to. "My mom is the strongest person I know," he said, glancing back at me for just a moment. "She wakes up early every day, works hard, and still makes time for me. She never complains, even when things are hard." Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. I shook my head slightly, overwhelmed, but he didn't stop. "She didn't have an easy life," he went on. "But she didn't give up, she didn't run away. She stayed, and she made a life for us." The room was completely still now. Even the smallest sounds had disappeared. "If that's not perfect," he added quietly, "then I don't know what is." A heavy silence followed. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was different. It was honest. He turned fully toward me then, his expression softening. "Mom," he said gently, "you're not something broken." My vision blurred with tears. "You're the reason I feel strong," he continued. "And I'm proud of you." That was it. The walls I had built for years, the strength I thought I needed just to survive, collapsed in an instant. Not from pain, but from something far deeper. I walked toward him slowly, my hands trembling, and pulled him into my arms. He hugged me back tightly, as if he understood everything I had never been able to say. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel judged. I didn't feel like I had to prove anything. I just felt seen, and when I finally looked up, I saw my mother standing there, silent. No criticism, no sharp words, just a stillness that said more than anything she had ever spoken. For once in her life, she had nothing left to say.